Alrighty, so hello, and welcome everybody to Rolling Out Design and Dialogue. I am your host, Jackie Clarke, and today I am chatting with some fellow Canadians, the cast of Tallboyz, a group of young, diverse comedians who alternate between playing heightened versions of themselves and sliding into cartoonish sketches about friendship, politics, bro culture, and everyday life. So please welcome GULED ABDI, VANCE BANZO, and FRANCO NGUYEN. Thank you guys for being here.
Hey,
Thanks
thanks
for
for
having
having
us.
us.
Of course, we are missing Tim, so he is here with us in spirit.
Mhm.
I wish he was here, but we're gonna have a great conversation regardless. So, as you guys know, this is Design and Dialogue, and I really want to dive deep into, the design and processes of Tallboyz and the thought behind it. I have had the pleasure of seeing some of the episodes, which are extremely funny. I was out here cracking up in my bed, and my sister's like, "What are you laughing at?" I'm like, "These guys are hilarious." So I want to talk to you guys about the creation of Tall Boys as creators of the series. What was how involved are you guys with the writing, with the writers or the production of this, or do you guys have a full creative direction and control of everything? And anyone can start.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Google it.
I was saying like we're pretty involved in it, like in pretty much most aspects of the show. Like we are the creative voice, but we do have like a team of writers as well, people who joined the room, who were with us from the first season, like Adam and Luke, who were writers in the show, and then we had friends and comics that we loved in the scene who we thought were very funny that we had hop in. But it is like we are the main engine of it, but there are a lot more parts to the show that make it happen. So Bruce is very involved in it, and he's like sees the bigger vision of sorting out episodes. But we also give our feedback on that as well, and then even the editing process, like although the boys were really involved in like making sure that like it looked the way we wanted to look at the end of the day.
I love that. Anything else, Vance? Do you have anything to say or add
I
to that?
think, yeah, I think who had answered it, said everything I was going to say.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that as well in terms of production and being involved. I know when it comes to creating series, sometimes, or not even series, just creating your brand and process in general. Sometimes you create it, but everybody else kind of takes hold and your actual ideal visions get lost. So it seems to me that you guys have a lot of creative direction and control. So how is it working with the writers and other creative comics? How is it working with them in terms of making sure that your visions for Tall Boys is really executed 100%?
I think like it's the number 100% is it's so high, it's perfect. And I think when you have your own vision, a lot of times I think you'll have, especially in such a collaborative show with sketch where the four of us have a unique take on comedy, as well as Bruce, as well as the art department, as well as the props department, as well as the other players in the scene. It's and sometimes there's just practical logistical things that just prevent, you want to shoot a ghost scene in a dark scary mansion, but it's like, oh well, we don't have this time for that, we have to shoot it during the daytime, and we're going to shoot it at a 7-Eleven instead, something like it'll just, and like you might like rip out your own hair just being like, no, this my my magnum opus will only be funny if it's in a mansion. But so you a lot of times have to like kind of surrender this 100% idea, because a lot of people are going to add to it. So that's a way to look at it, is that like it's not all on you to sculpt the entire piece yourself. You have so many departments, so many talented voices that kind of add and echo, hopefully, the message that you're trying to convey. A lot of times it's like the piece itself, like we have control over the writing, and sometimes because we're acting in it, we don't have control over the visuals or the props or whatever, but we have control over the writing, and as long as the core of what the writing the core of the writing is conveyed, then I'm usually pretty good with it. And I think that's also the a way to rise to the challenge of writing, where it's like, okay, no matter what, I wrote this piece, no matter whose hands it's going to be, it's so clear that it will be conveyed in a way that it can't be missed.
Yeah, and Franco really touched on a good point about like there are so many other people who will either elevate the piece or sometimes not like just another idea on top of an idea that's not really moving the sketch or making it better, but just everyone's trying to make it better. That's the goal. And so sometimes even as I really write a sketch and you have many voices that are trying to help with it and knowing when to give over control to someone else who has a better idea to move the sketch, and because it feels so personal, like you want the sketch the way you wrote it to be, that's how you want it to look on screen. But sometimes you have to give up on certain ideas because it's just not feasible, but it feels like everything matters because you're like, this is because we come from a stage where we create the environment, so it felt like we had control over every aspect of it. And then on TV, sometimes there's a whole department of people who also have great ideas. So departments. So sometimes I have to be like, all right, maybe you're right. Maybe I can give up on that color,
Yeah, I think it's. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say it's like it's perfectly natural. I think, especially with this, as we were learning each other's process and working with Bruce and the other departments, that there was going to be disagreements. Even in the most ideal circumstance, if it was like everyone was a version of yourself, you're going to disagree. And part of this whole process was learning how to collaborate and kind of be on the same page, even if the page is not ideal, but also, just also accepting and relinquishing control. And sometimes it really, and also like learning how to speak up, because that's the fine balance. It's like, I really have a clear vision on this one. I really have to fight for it. And sometimes I think there was moments where I was like, oh, I should have fought a lot harder for it. And there's other moments where it's like, I think I fought too hard for this, this, like one time I asked for a pink shirt and then, no, there was a white shirt and I was like, I think a pink shirt would be better. And then I ended up wearing the pink shirt and I was like, the white, we should have went the white. So like, but it was like a couple of years of just mustering up the courage to ask for what you want or just contributing. But I think by, the third season, we felt very comfortable. But even with that comfort, you want everyone to have a really strong opinion, because that really tests the piece that you're trying to create. And sometimes it's like, in the end, you just watch and you're like, you know what, it is what it is. I think it still works, and it could have been, but a lot of times it's like, there's a lot of like pain, like, I don't know, you just like really can't work in the should have, woulda, coulda, like trying to be present as much as possible and like forgiving yourself for not making the thing that you wanted, but like celebrating the thing it became.
I love that. And, you guys touched on a lot of really great points, like being a creative and letting go of control. I think creatives in general have that problem because you have an ideal and, the ideal is not always going to work out. So how do you collaborate? How do you guys work together and still continue to have the same message? So I really like that you guys touched on, a lot of different areas of that. So when it comes to that, then when we talk about creative, where do you guys draw your inspiration from for your skits and your scenes? You guys are very diverse men, a whole group of different ethnicities and backgrounds. So how do you guys marry all of that to create such seamless, in my opinion, seamless scenes? Vance, maybe you want to start?
Yeah, like inspiration definitely comes from within the group, I find. Speaking to each other. One of my favorite things about the writer's room is when this is pre-pandemic, we would just sit in a circle, sit in the morning, have tea, have coffee, and just talk about what's going on in the world, what's going on with ourselves. And you get inspired by other people's, whatever they're doing in their life. Maybe something has come up, maybe an unexpected something, maybe they're nervous about something, maybe there's something in the news bothering you, but you draw inspiration from each other. And, oh, that's a good idea. I really like that idea. Oh, okay. So it just becomes this fluidity of thoughts and process. And then we have Bruce there to help guide, kind of just like his instinct over 30 years, you got to learn to trust that. So it's just like, I really like that. How about you chase that idea? Why don't you go write up a page or 2 pages about that and just see what inspires you more while you're writing. So inspiration, I felt like, definitely came a lot from within the group. And then when pandemic happened and we all had to isolate and stuff, then even more so, I felt.
And how much of you guys, how much of yourselves do you guys really put into your skits? Because I know it's some of it you, and then you're going to portray characters that come to mind. But how much of your real life, your family life, the ethnic side of you, do you guys put into your skits, and why is that important, or why is it important for you guys to put yourselves there?
Oh, sorry. I'll speak on this.
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, speaking truth to power has always been like something that's really interested me, especially since doing stand-up. And I don't see a lot of my opinions reflected in the media that I watch, so I was just like, well, I can fill that void. I can speak to these subjects. You don't have to go sleuthing through a newspaper to find out what the Indigenous imprisonment rate is in Canada. I can put that in front of you while you're also laughing at other things as well. And, now you have a little piece, and maybe you're interested in that. Maybe you want to take it away. Maybe you want to do something with it. But it was just felt it was important to speak on those things.
I love that.
Yeah, I think like especially with like comedy, like there's this phrase like punching up and punching down, and I think a lot of people have their opinions on like what the rules of comedy are. I think for me, I always try to like I want to like make comedy that's original, that makes me laugh, and I do feel like there has been a whole kind of a growth and of like trying to figure out how to just like conquer the challenge of making like kind of something that is perceived as progressive to be funny, because nobody wants to listen to, like, no one wants to like go onto YouTube. Like everyone wants to eat McDonald's, it's like, I know this is poison, but it tastes so good, So for myself, as someone who is like creating something, a lot of times when you create something, you're kind of like, you use the references that have existed before you to sculpt the piece that you're trying to create presently. So like whether it's like like Quentin Tarantino is just like a lot of his movies are like a combination of movies that he's ingested. And for a lot of times, like if I were to do the same, like early in my comedy career, I still feel early in my comedy career, but earlier in the comedy career, it was like a lot of self-deprecating jokes, because the precedents that I was ingesting before me was like just jokes that were like at the expense of people that look like me. So it's hard to like kind of deconstruct that internalized racism and try to create something new that hasn't been really existing before. So it was kind of like in the way that someone can make a like in a like a freedom of speech, I'm gonna say what I want type of room, where the risk is like, I'm gonna say this about the cancel culture, how I'm under attack and they might cancel. That is their perceived risk. And on the flip side, my risk is like coming off really corny and saying like, no, racism is bad, guys, this is the comedy. And then everyone's going, oh, like, so for me, there's like a challenge in both. And like when we can execute something that is something that I connects to a message that I think is funny and that I believe, then I feel like it's a real feat. It's like, when Where Is the Love came out by Black Eyed Peas, it was like such a hit, and everyone's just like, whoa, this is so good, and it's so positive. Like that's like, I was like, oh yeah, but it's on paper it's so cheesy and corny, but when you hear it, you're like, wow, how did they make it a hit? So like when we have those type of hits, it feels like a real feat. And on the flip side, comedy is like it's just in the moment. Sometimes you just want to do something ridiculous. Sometimes maybe you feel like your, cancel culture is attacking you in that moment, and you just write something based on what you've consumed that day. It's just all about like being truthful and being playful, and it might change from day to day. 10 years from now, or like 2 months from now, I might be like, no, cancel culture is real.
And that's what I find with comedians. Like I've seen some of the skits, and you guys do it well when you talk about certain things. I see the comedy, but I also see the realness in it. But then how, as comedians, because there's a fine line. Like I find with comedians in general, I find they get a lot of slack. Y'all get a lot of slack for, especially when it comes to either racial, sexual issues or any of those things. How do you guys dance that fine line of being funny but still being serious, like, and saying, hey guys, I'm funny about this, but this is still real for us? Because you guys, there's a skit you guys talked about the penny comparing the penny and the indigenous. I was sitting there watching that. I was just like, okay, like I felt uncomfortable for the guy because I was like, he wants to answer the questions, and I'm out here answering them, but I'm like, oh my god. But what it did was it made me think about, oh, is this right? And I'm just like, am I okay? There's a lot of thoughts. There was a lot of thoughts for me. So are a lot of the things that you guys do, is it intentional or intentional? Do you guys want people to think about what it is you guys are saying? Like, is there a deeper meaning to your jokes or skits?
I guess the penny one in particular, that was, at first, I'm going to be honest. At first, I wasn't like, going to be a messiah or anything like that. Like, no big, deep meaning here. It was just, I did a comedy show and I had to dress up as something Canadian. So I dressed up as a Canadian penny. And then the connections started happening after that. And I was like, well, this is funny. This speaks to me. And, and there's some real connective tissue here. So, and then we eventually wrote that, and you get some, you just hone it in the room. You just only get a tight sketch. But definitely while you're in the room, after you tell the jokes, you get on stage, you're like, yeah, okay. There is something that I am definitely saying here. And I can speak to it more through just honed writing and reaching out to these guys for advice. And, yeah.
How funny is it? Oh, you have something, Franco?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, sometimes you have to like just write what's true to you. And I think like sometimes like where I felt like I kind of fell short with a sketch is when I've been trying to like infuse too much like point of view, like it's too much point of view and not enough playfulness, and like too much messaging. And I think what you really want to do is like the sketches should come off in a way where it's like it's just funny and it's subversive, so you don't really think about the message. It just kind of hits you later on. And I think that comes from putting people who have real lived experience in that position to create that stuff. I was thinking like about like, like if it was like, if you wanted to do someone to do like specifically Canadian comedy, you'd get someone to write from Canada, right? Like do Canadian comedy, as opposed to like if you put like someone from like South America to do Canadian comedy, and there's like, and they start doing jokes like, oh, have you ever noticed how Tom Halton's? And it's like, what? No, it's Tim Hortons. What are you talking about? I think it's like now we're at a time where, and I think it speaks to our specific experience too, where we can write something that's truthful to us in an effortless way. It could just be like, hey, this is something that happened to me specifically, or this is an observation that I had, where I think someone who hasn't had that particular experience or didn't grow up in that particular demographic might never have that that lens, because they would only see things from a particular angle or scope. And so for like Vance to write Penny like that, I feel like it would be impossible for like, a non-Indigenous person to write that.
Of course. And speaking of like Canadian lingo, as a Torontonian myself, I understand the nuances of the Toronto slang, and I love the TPC references, and I love little Canadian things. So I'm like, this is home to me. But now that you guys are diversifying your portfolio in the U.S. and hopefully globally for the rest of your time, how do you your jokes or messages for people who may not be Canadian, may not understand the Toronto lingo, the Native American or Indigenous, Black, Asian? How do you guys convey those things, or is it purposely to go over their heads? It's like, hey, this is who we are, and it is what it is.
However, it's going to be received and perceived. If it's positive, it was intended, and if it's not, it's Bruce's fault.
Blaming Bruce. Okay, good to know.
And we hope, like, when we're writing it, like we were talking about earlier, of like we're gonna try to write from our perspective and Canadian perspective for the most part, or whatever we're consuming. We consume obviously a lot of American content as well, but things like that, about TTC, like we hope obviously if someone's watching it in a state where there's no public transit, then they're gonna be like, I don't understand what's public transit. Why is this funny? But we're hoping that the feeling still comes across in some way. So like like the goal of you be specific, and hopefully the more specific you are, the more relatable it is, universal. So like we're hoping it is, but if it's not, I mean, if DC falls flat, I can live with that.
Sure. enough. Fair enough. I thought a lot of it was funny, just certain things like running through the cities, throwing the clip. I was like, okay, I kind of get that, you know. So as we talk about design and dialogue, and we talk about developing careers and designing your career, like for each of you, and you know, Gould, we'll start with you. How have you guys designed your career to be at this point so far, and where do you intend to take your career further than just being an actor and a comedian? Like, what's next? Gould, we'll start with you.
Yeah, there wasn't much design involved in it. I'll be honest, it was a lot of just, can I do this? I remember telling the boys I was going to quit many times, and then the show happened, and so it's just, I don't know, just doing stuff, and then just hanging out with these guys, and just continuing to do it, and then like things like I don't just like, you know, just doing the thing, being sometimes in the right place, finding cool, funny people, and then other people noticing that these guys have something, we can make money off them. We're like, yeah, we want to make money too. All right, let's keep doing it. So I'm hoping that keeps going in our favor.
I hope for that too. Vance, yourself?
Yeah, a lot like GULED, I guess. The way I've kind of described it is you're kind of just in a barrel floating down river. You can plan all you want, but you really don't know what's going to happen. What kind of rod is going to be put out from shore, or what kind of rocks are ahead. So you just kind of got to keep going and just, yeah, just stay positive, and yeah, just keep. I'm from Alberta. I'm keep on trucking. Sorry.
Oh yeah, you have to. You have to. One Alberta reference. No, one Alberta reference. It's one per interview.
Franco, yourself? Have you designed your career? Have you thought you would be here, or is it same with the guys? Similar to
I don't know. I don't think I really. I think I wrote down goals and specific goals, and I had fantasized a lot. So maybe that's part of it. Is like just visualizing incidentally. So I think I think the next couple of steps are like just developing more TV ideas and like continuing to audition and look for like really interesting projects to be a part of. And I think just continue to develop my stand-up. And yeah, I think that's the next couple of steps, is just to develop and do more stand-up and audition.
I love that. You guys are really funny guys. So I want to know, like, how is it on set? Like, what is set life like? Because some of the skits I was watching, I'm like, if I was acting, I would just be giggling all the time. So I don't even know if I can make it through a scene. Do you guys often have any of those? Like, you guys got to stop too many times, or is it you guys are pretty good at being method actors and just getting through the scene and then breaking?
There's definitely times where I break, but there's a lot of times where when I break, I'm like, I look over at the crew, I'm like, oh my gosh, these people have families. They want to go home to their families. I can't take too much time. So I always feel like you just want to get it done. But like, yeah, I mean, you always, yeah, you want to have fun too. So I think like we had a sketch called Bro, and Vance plays like bro, and the word bro is the only vocabulary he has. And there's like one moment every single time I knew I had like a pocket to laugh, so I would try to hold it together during the take, and when I turned my head away from the camera, I was laughing every time I was walking back to Tim. So I would be like this, and then I would walk and I would go and then I hit my mark, and then we would reset, and that was like one of the funnest laughs I've had.
That's hilarious. Anybody have any funny stories that they want to share on set? Anything that you could share with us?
Having to at one point season 2 have a pink dildo or purple dildo.
Oh, yeah.
And part of a sketch, and then some school kids got let out. You know,
it wasn't a dildo though. Like it wasn't used for pleasure. It was like a it was a felt penis.
Oh no, I think it was plastic, but it hadn't been used. I think it was brand new.
Dude, I think it was felt because I remember it looked like Big Bird's dick. Like Jesus,
it was great, yeah, for sure.
Wow, and school kids
walked by because we were filming on the corner of in the Etobicoke, like in Toronto's West End, and kids got let out of school at the same time, so they would give me a rope to cover myself up between takes, but I did feel like there was a crime being.
Dude,
yeah. You're lucky police didn't stop by, because that is indecent exposure at its finest.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what was gone well with the TDSD.
It's not even my penis either, you know. So like, I don't know. Would I be charged with a dildo? Just get confiscated, sophisticated. It's a sophisticated dildo. That's what it is.
I think a lot of things you'd get in the back.
It was like an unfair deal because it wasn't your penis, but you took on all the shame.
I did. Yeah, it's very true.
It's like, how at least my own penis. That shame block. It was like weird because it was a felt penis. Because I think what I heard was that they wanted a felt penis so that when you pixelate it later on, it's not like they don't have to do VFX. It's a cost saving measure. Yeah, and it was exactly. It was the detailed part. It was weird because it had like the shape. There was a head. It was so gross. Yeah, and there was like one point Roulette had both his hands in front of his the fake penis. Like it
I need to be on set. I'm letting you know I live in Toronto, so I would like to be an extra. I'm just
you're invited.
I want to be an extra. So as we get close to wrapping this up, because I love the insight that you guys have been sharing. What keeps you guys inspired to pursue your passions as actors and comedians? Like, you know, there's this myth that the Canadian acting scene isn't as great as the US and it's hard and a lot of people like to die out. How do you guys keep inspired to continue to pursue being who you are and sharing your talent? Vance, we'll start with you.
I guess I don't know how to do anything else, man. This is all I got. I'm not skilled in any other way. No, this is what I always wanted to do. This is my passion. This is my dream. And I'm doing it and I'm loving it. And as long as I can keep doing it, keep living a comfortable life, just a good life, just, day in, day out. That's what drives me.
I love that. Franco?
Try to stay inspired. I think just like trying to check out shows, watch really cool things, and you always watching like, man, I want to like the desire to create something as good as the things that gave you so much joy. That's always like the one inspiration. The other is just like bills. Just looking at the end of every month, you're like, Jesus Christ, there's no way. I gotta do something. I gotta figure something out. I have children. That's it.
Yeah, for me, definitely capitalism inspires me.
Capitalism for sure.
Pursue my dreams. Otherwise, we get ground into paste. But same thing. Like, just seeing people. Yeah, I love the feeling of when I watch something that really like makes me so giddy and excited. Then I go, and then immediately the thought that follows is like, God damn it, why didn't I think of that? You know. But then also being like, oh, it's just. I couldn't have. This is a reference that's so specific to like this person's life, you know. But being like, that's such a great idea, you know.
Yeah. Why couldn't I think of Rocket Man?
You guys talked about a couple of the seasons that you guys have had. What has changed from when you first started Tallboyz to now? Like, is the idea that you guys started with, obviously it's going to grow, but what has changed over the last couple of seasons? Because you guys have how many seasons? 2?
3.
Yeah.
Dude, a lot's changed, especially because like when we started, it was pre-pandemic 2019, and then the next 2 seasons were during the pandemic. Like we're still in the pandemic, so it's so weird. Like, it feels like a huge glitch where your dreams come true, but the world is ending. Like it's so strange. So a lot has changed. I think we all grew individually. I have like 2 children and a partner now. It comes with the show once you sign the deal. Gives you, but a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's so much change, and I think it's just like you feel more. There's confidence and a vision of like, oh, this is the scale. Like this is what happens at the scale, and this is, and you could see how people can get to certain places just based on access and also based on talent as well. But like how certain structures are limiting, but also like how people can really flourish. So definitely like want to, it inspires you so that like when you get your opportunity to like create a show, you can put people in a place to succeed that have maybe haven't had a chance before. And I feel like with our show, there was a lot of moments where that happened.
I love that. And what can we expect from each of you going forward? Are we expecting more Tallboy content? Are we expecting individual projects from you guys? GULED, I'd let you start.
Definitely more Tallboy stuff. I mean, we've talked about like, at some point trying to do a tour, figuring that out. Maybe Tallboyz a movie at some point, putting it out there. Someone wants to I was like, we got to pitch it, but if someone wants to pitch us the Tallboyz movie, and then we'll be in it, you know. I found the perfect vehicle for you guys. It's Austin Powers with 4 of you. And then individually, yeah, I don't know, man. Just keep doing the stuff I'm doing. You know, get on the social medias, get a hit tweet every now and then. Try for me, viral is like getting over 20. So you know, I mean, you know, it's a low bar, but I think I can clear it.
Vance, yourself?
Yeah, just you know, sitting in front of laptops, stewing over, you know, ideas, and just like Franco said, just, you know, you want to develop a really cool idea and just see how far you can take it. So I think that's where I'm at. I'm falling back in love with improv. So come watch me do some improv in Toronto. I love doing that stuff. But you know, you got capitalism. It's got you by the
Franco, yourself?
Yeah, just developing ideas and working on my own projects, and then like hopefully, yeah, we put together this Tallboyz tour. That'd be exciting.
I love that. I'm gonna put that positive energy out there for you guys. If I know anybody in the movie scene, I will keep you on my radar. And for those who want to know more about Tallboyz, watch it, see it. How can they connect with you guys online? How can they support the show? Like, let us know where we can find you.
Tallboyz is a show. We're on all platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, WeChat. We're gonna get on that. We're not on that yet.
We're on Weibo.
We're
on Weibo as well.
And then for me, just look for GULED. It's the worst Twitter handle. GHUSLEAD. So once you type in the 5th, I should show up by that point.
If you don't, we're gonna have to work on your social media there.
I know, yeah, just making it easier.
Yes, Vance, how can people connect with you?
Yeah, I'm just on Twitter and Instagram. Just Vance BANZO with both.
Franco?
Yeah, you can hit me up at 416-9. Oh wait, yeah, at Franco Wins or at Franco Wins. My name spelled and pronounced wrong. On all social media. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for being here. I honestly appreciated the laughs and just connecting with you guys and learning more about your goals and how you guys, your thought process and design process with Tallboyz. I wish you guys the best of luck. For everybody who's watching, please make sure you support Tallboyz. Go follow them on all social handles, support, watch, and have a great laugh. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peace.
Thanks.